When you guys played Murray several weeks ago, AJ Ferguson was really good. Talk about what you remember from that game.
Well, if I just went back and said what I remember, I don't remember a lot, but watching the film, we just were offensively very just stood around, didn't have much movement. We really didn't have much life to us. We'd been on a pretty good roll, and I think emotionally just came out flat for whatever reason. It's hard. It's just hard to be emotionally high when you're playing 2 or 3 games a week, and so that's understandable. But in order to be a good team, when you are emotionally flat, you still have to be able to fight through that. And we didn't. They were ready for us. They were much more aggressive, way more physical than we were, and we just offensively stood around a lot, went one on one, which is really not we're not very good at. We don't have a lot of great one-on-one players, and so we weren't very good offensively. They were ready to go, and just were way more physical than we were.
This past weekend, your game, you guys were terrific in the first half and had a difficult second half. What happens at half times with teams and players? And I mean, I know they're young men and all those kinds of things. What you see, but you see that in a lot of college basketball games where the halves they don't even resemble one another.
You can sit there and try to figure it out, but we had been the 2 games previous to that, we came out and were very good at the start of the second half, and so I don't know what the explanations are, and I think you end up wasting time trying to figure out, like, what did we do, what did we talk about? We didn't do anything differently, and I think it is probably has more to do with them. The game was very similar in terms of when we went to Belmont and played earlier in the year. They had us down 12 at half, and we erased that lead very quickly, and they did exactly the same thing. And then we got to, we were pretty similar in the second half as we were to Murray State, where we just stood around and tried to go one-on-one, which is not what we're good at. You're not scoring against Belmont. They get in transition. They're hard to match up to. Great shooting team, and they got going. And we just couldn't respond the way we needed to because we just weren't very good offensively.
People talk about basketball being a game of runs, and that's because some things are kind of contagious, aren't they? Something gets rolling, and the next thing you know, we're really rolling well. Managing, encouraging, helping your guys with their confidence or whatever, that's really the kind of psychological challenge, isn't it?
It is. People ask me if they go into coaching, what should they major in? And after being in it, I was a business major, but I tell them you should either go into psychology or counseling, because that's primarily what we do now. It's become more of a business. I'll be honest with you, but regardless of the business side of it, if you don't have their hearts, it becomes really difficult. And there are plenty of ways to motivate people, but the best, in my opinion, the best motivation is that you just care about your teammates and you don't want to let them down. And it's not, oh, I'm afraid of what coach will say, or anything that has to do with fear, I think is a bad way to motivate people in the long run. I think you can get them to do something very quickly, but I think in the long run, if you just use fear, you're going to create anxiety, and we don't want our guys playing anxious.
OJ, Damian Mayo didn't play this weekend. What can you tell me about Damian?
Well, we don't know. I mean, he has only he knows in terms of the pain level that he's in. And so, he has a bruise on his hip. I don't know if you call it a hip pointer or, but he plays hard. He's on the floor a lot, physically beat up. And so, we still don't know. And I just always, if they're not in, I prepare like he's not going to be. And we need the other people to think the same way.
When going back to Murray, when we think about the racers, there's a number of people you have to really challenge or defend. And tell me a little bit about, like, last game, AJ Ferguson had his best game of the year, and obviously he was motivated playing against his old program. But who do you guys have to slow down if there are people you need to key on Wednesday night?
They just don't have one guy. It's not like they have a program. Where if you look at Drake, I mean, everybody knows it's going to be. I mean, Sterritz makes everybody better around them, but he has to be such a focus. They don't have a guy like that, which sometimes makes it even more difficult because you have to be able, you have to be able to have a good focus on everybody. I think a guy that's very understated on their team is Ellington. And in my opinion, AJ played very well against us, but Ellington whipped us physically. And he does a good job if they're in there switching of being able to guard guards, and he's just physical, plays hard all the time, and I know that they feel like they can really count on him.
Kennard has physical talents, obviously, physical abilities. But what about we talked about psychology a minute ago? What about him and his mental makeup makes him a successful basketball player?
Tough, he just is. He's a competitor, and some of that stuff you can't teach. I mean, people either have that or they don't, and really don't want to recruit anybody that's not a competitor. But he can take it to another level. He has a high sense of wanting to compete and be physical and do the tough things. I think asking him to be more of an offensive player has taken some of that away from him. Where it used to be that he would be a side note in the offense, and here's what we're dependent on you to do. Now we're leaning on him more heavily offensively. I think it does take away from some of those other things, and he's playing so many minutes on top of that, and so we need more of the toughness out of him, and he can give us that for sure.
Just a handful of games left before you get to Arch Madness, and this late in the year, what are the kinds of things that coaches can maybe focus on, or are you still, man, we have to improve on this? You're working on those kinds of things or mentalities. What's the kind of the stretch drive approach for coaches at this time of year?
Everybody's probably different. For us, it's we just asking the guys what can you sacrifice for these next few weeks that would better the team. What can you give up, or what, whether it's your time or whatever it is, what can you give up that would help our team be better? If it's an individual thing for you, but it will help you focus on the team. If it's something team needs, that's what we're looking for. And they can be small things, very small things, but if we all do that, you think about even the coaching staff, when you put all those things together, how much that can benefit the team. So that's where our focus is right now.
Have there been any major surprises for you first year in the Missouri Valley Conference, or maybe what has been the most surprising thing about your first year in the Valley?
Uh, I don't know. I think just from the outside, people talk about, oh, it's such a rugged league and it's a defensive league. And I think this year it hasn't been what I thought it would be. I think it's been more of an offensive league. And, there's a lot of great shooters in the league. And I just think that the level of offense this year, and not necessarily just the high scoring, but the field goal percentages and things like that seem to be higher than what I would have predicted.
Appreciate your time today, Coach. Best of luck.
Thank you.